Today on The Report, the Supreme Court guts the Voting Rights Act.
Spirit Airlines shuts down as company says it can't keep up with the higher oil prices.
The Hantavirus rocks a cruise ship, leaving sick passengers stranded.
And the Academy of Motion Picture Arts announces major rules overhauls. The Report starts now. Welcome back to The Report. I'm Chrissy Washington.
I'm Geraldine Martinez.
And I'm Sergio Gonzalez. Stay in the loop and get updated on campus news by following us on Titan TV's Instagram and TikTok account at Titan TV CSUF.
The Voting Rights Act is a U.S. law that was signed in 1965 to help stop racial discrimination in voting by ending unfair voting methods to prevent Black Americans from casting ballots. The Supreme Court, in the case of Louisiana v. Calais, effectively gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act by a 6-3 decision. This decision challenges electoral maps that weaken the power of minority voters. Their reasoning was said to be that the electoral map, quote, relied too heavily on race. In Texas, Americans are facing voting challenges after they've found out how their party's primary was being held elsewhere. Texas recently redrew its districts that changed its election maps that can affect who wins each election. Texas is also using a new election data management system called TEAM that caused issues during rollout, from delays in voter registration to ballot errors that's a concern for voters. State courts attempted to help with some concerns from voters by extending polling hours. The Supreme Court eventually reversed course, causing an early closure to polling places then announced, making it more difficult for voters to cast their ballots. I think this is a very big thing. I think the Voting Rights Act has been obviously in effect for all of our lifetimes. How do you guys feel about this? Do you think something will change? Do you think that this is a big blow to voting? How do you guys think this is going to play out?
I see it as a bit of a blow, and I also see it as somewhat of an unnecessary one when you consider, this is an act that's been in place since the 60s.
Right.
So to kind of tamper with it now is just more of our consistent questioning of just government and what exactly is going on there specifically, and what the drive is with that. I think in this case, we had noted that Black Americans may see a little bit of change in their ballots, and I feel like that alone, it's what are we doing there? There's really no good explanation for that.
It's just really interesting how it's just they're starting to make these changes. We have midterms coming soon. So how is this going to affect it, really? That is the question. Personally, why they're making the changes, I don't feel like they should do this. It should be maybe a little bit after midterms or, primary elections. But, this is a focus where it's a little bit more concerning for not only Black Americans, but majority of the ethnicity, and especially Hispanics as well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is the way this is played out. And I think that we get a very different perspective being in California. Mm-hmm. I think Prop 50 was a huge win for us. I think we did a lot of good with the campaigning that we did in California. Mm-hmm. But I think this just showed that at the end of the day, we can only do so much, and that the South has a very real issue with voter restrictions and all of this tampering of ballots that's been talked about, and voter fraud and all these things that I think are just red herrings for them to be able to change the way that we vote and change who we can vote for and change who can vote in general. So I think I've said this a lot, I think it's a slippery slope into something that could go a lot worse, especially just with what we've had with Prop 50 and all of the redistricting that's going on. I think that this just kind of, I don't know, made things a little bit worse, maybe. Yeah.
Spirit Airlines announced Saturday that it is going out of business after 34 years. The company filed for its second bankruptcy in 2 years and was in financial trouble before the Iran war raised jet fuel prices. Larger airlines like United, Delta, JetBlue, and Southwest have cushioned the blow of jet fuel prices by increasing fees. However, discount carriers like Spirit had a harder time raising fares because they rely on ultra-low prices to attract business. Spirit's final flight occurred on Friday at 11 p.m. from Detroit to Dallas. Quote, "To our guests, all flights have been canceled and customer service is no longer available," end quote. Spirit said in a statement, its closure has stranded thousands of passengers who had to adjust travel plans. The Association of Value Airlines, the trade group for smaller airlines like Spirit and Frontier, has been in talks with Congress about a $2.5 billion government assistance package, above the failed $500 million bailout. Spirit is the first major U.S. airline in 25 years to go out of business because of financial problems since 9/11. Spirit's closure will likely affect budget-conscious travelers who once had a cheap way to travel. I remember watching the news and the videos, and a lot of passengers who probably have these two-way express to go to one place to another, and in the middle of it, they had to find ways to kind of find new travels with different airlines. So it is sad to see an airline go, and this is, I think, the first time we ever seen one happening in our eyes. So I don't know how you guys feel. Do you think that we should actually, have, maybe more fees for those airlines that have they have the ultra low budgets for people who can't afford it? What are your thoughts on those?
So I have 2 points to make. First of all, had no idea that Spirit Airlines was 34 years old. I did not know that they'd been around that long, so I'm a little bit more sad than I was before. And like you said, I feel like this closure actually has real time, right now effects. I'm going to be going to Vegas for a conference in July, and we were looking at flights, and they're 100, they're more expensive than they would be if we just took a Spirit flight. And I feel like that was in this, we were looking maybe the day after Spirit closed, and I was oh, this is actually happening right now. And I think it just sucks because I feel like we are seeing this squeezing out of the consumer, especially when it comes to flying, where it's now you try 5 years ago, you would book a flight and you're okay, cool, I can fly American, I can fly JetBlue, I can fly Delta, I can fly these regular airlines and still not be breaking the bank. But now you go to book a flight and they're oh, this is how much a regular ticket costs, but you can save $100 by not paying for anything. And it's just, it's very I think we're just seeing this cheapening of services and this lack of services. Which was not the case, I think, when we had Spirit around, and I don't know if Frontier is even doing well right now. And yeah, I feel since Virgin Airlines, this was the only two competitors that we've had where it's okay, we can fly cheap and not be super worried about a bunch of things. And I feel it's really sad that they're gone now.
It's always nice to have that option as well.
Exactly.
I'd wanted to see road Spirit before, and even then, there's always been kind of that discourse of oh, that's one of the lesser airlines slash at least from what I've seen, oh, altercations or
right.
this or whatever. But it's I don't think, that's its narrative.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I feel just cheaper airlines like that are convenient, and I just feel as if it is kind of disheartening to see that is going to get discontinued. And then you mentioned Virgin Airlines. There's also Frontier that's probably going to go down a similar trajectory pretty soon. So honestly, it is not. It's sad to see, really. The World Health Organization says 5 confirmed cases of Hantavirus have now been identified among people connected to the cruise ship MV Hondius, as health officials across multiple countries work to contain the outbreak. 3 people, including a Dutch couple and a German national, have died since the ship departed from Argentina last month. The first suspected case involved a 70-year-old Dutchman who became very sick on board with fever, headaches, and severe stomach issues before dying on April 11th. More than 140 passengers and crew from over 20 countries remain under strict precautionary measures as the ship heads towards Spain's Canary Islands. Some passengers have already been evacuated to Europe for treatment, while others who left the ship earlier are now being monitored in countries including the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Singapore, South Africa, and the Netherlands. The outbreak has been linked to the Andes strain of Hantavirus, a rare virus that can, in some cases, spread through close human contact. The World Health Organization says it expects additional cases, but does not believe the situation poses a global pandemic risk similar to COVID-19. Online reaction has been mixed, with some people calling for stricter travel restrictions and quarantine measures, while others warn against panic or comparisons to the COVID-19 pandemic that shut down much of the world 6 years ago. The situation has sparked new debate over how governments and health officials should respond to international health threats in a post-pandemic world. Investigators believe the initial infections may have occurred before the cruise began, possibly during travel through Argentina and Chile, where the virus is known to exist in rodent populations. Guys, so there's been a little bit of PTSD, at least for me personally. I know for a lot of people as well, just in regards to just like this virus outbreak and what we've heard so far. This one's a bit of a unique one in the sense that it's kind of stranded on a ship, but now, like as I had mentioned, like they're kind of fleeing out into different countries. So I just wanted to get your guys' honest take on what could possibly be about this virus.
So I think the memes and the videos, we've all seen the TikToks, I think they're really funny because of just like the similarities. I think that it's like a rodent virus and like I understand the jokes. However, I feel like we don't know enough, at least as like citizens, to like make any kind of definitive like decision on like what we think will happen. I feel like it can go either way. I feel like with COVID, we were kind of like, oh, like it can't be that bad. We were making a lot of the same jokes that we're making right now. And then now 6 years later, which is crazy, by the way, we look back and it's like, oh, like that was actually a lot bigger than I think everyone made it seem to be. I always look to the World Health Organization, but I think that our administration currently is kind of, didn't we like pull out of the WHO? Like, I think, I don't know what's going on. So I feel like it can go a number of ways. I know I had just mentioned that I saw KTLA posted that some of the people from the boat like came back to California. I hope they're okay, and I hope that they are quarantining or something because what? But yeah, how do you guys feel about
Well, I know that a few that had came back from different countries that they are being strictly supervised and strictly quarantined. I don't know how I feel about what's going on right now with us as United States. Are they taking those precautions seriously? There has been a few people who have had concerns that have already kind of seen the symptoms of this virus already. That's kind of like 40% more than they're saying that it's like coronavirus 2.0 and that there's no vaccine for that as obviously. So I think that we should be more concerned about our people that have traveled back, that are coming back and be severely quarantined so the virus doesn't spread as it did 6 years ago.
Exactly. And you guys had mentioned just the idea of this being a rodent virus, I think just being scary considering where COVID-19 had originally came from, and then also our initial concerns like you had mentioned. I feel like a lot of that back then was cope, and even now it's feeling like a little bit of cope.
Yeah, it's definitely cope.
To feel the similarities is a little bit concerning, I must say. But initially, like we just kind of have to hope for the best. And me personally, I'm going to be keeping an eye out as to who gets the virus that wasn't on that ship.
Right.
Because in that case, I will start getting concerned.
Right.
But for now, it is definitely concerning, and I do hope for the best for those people at the moment. But it's scary to see what could come. I mean, viruses we never know nowadays. So.
Right. And that's another effect of climate change is viruses spreading and things like this happening in pandemics. And so I'm hoping, like you mentioned, that we can be more proactive, I think, than we were in the past.
Please.
Yeah, literally. Like, I beg. The Academy Awards are set to introduce major rule changes ahead of the ceremony's 99th edition in 2027, as Hollywood accounts for evolving technology in an increasingly global industry. One of the biggest updates addresses artificial intelligence, with the Academy making it abundantly clear that moving forward, only human performances and human written screenplays will be eligible for acting and writing awards. The refurbished rules also now allow actors to receive multiple nominations in the same category for different performances, removing a limit that's been in place since 1945. International films will also see expanded opportunities thanks to this overhaul. Movies will now be able to qualify through winning top prize at major international festivals, and multiple films from the same country are now eligible to compete as well. These changes have received mostly positive feedback to this point, with the Academy being praised for protecting creative jobs and doing what they can to keep the industry pure. So how do you guys feel about these changes? I know when I saw them on Instagram, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good rule that I think we should have, that only obviously human-made work should be nominated for Academy Awards. So how do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, they just announced that they had banned AI out of just human performances. They did have more lenient rules, like if you are using AI, you can only use it for ideas, but not strictly written for screenplays. So with AI coming around, it seems like the rules have been changing, especially for the film industry. So, and to get nominated for twice in the same category, I feel like it could be a benefit, but it also could be a little bit detrimental for other actors as well, who are portraying and performing very well as others. So it is a mixed feeling about mixed feeling about especially that category that they have announced that they have changed. But I do agree with the AI having to make a little bit more changes on that.
I agree. I also feel like just in general, we have to be making AI-related changes in just about
Right.
everything. So in this case, I like that they've taken the leap. And obviously after the last Oscars, there was nothing crazy necessarily about AI, but just to kind of harp on that now is always going to be good. I do like the role that you mentioned of just like only one nomination, because I do feel like that kind of puts away other people at a potential opportunity. Yes, they may not win the Oscar, but an Oscar nomination is an award in itself. So I feel like they're making the right steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
I agree. And that wraps up with our recent news of today and our last report.
Make sure to stay tuned for more news, views, and info.
Don't forget to follow @TitanTV CSUF on Instagram to stay updated with our weekly episodes.
We'll see you next semester on another season of The Report.